often when I'd been working with millionaires, guys who had everything they could ever want, beautiful homes, beautiful cars, beautiful wives, lots of money, a few people said to me, "How come you're working with these guys? They don't need what you've got." Of course, I knew that they did, because just because you've got all the money in the world doesn't mean you don't have problems, and these athletes certainly did. They had big problems that they would often share with me. I'll go to my grave knowing some stories that they shared with me. I've been a sports fan all my life. I also liked writing letters. I liked reading books. I liked books so well that I bought a Christian bookstore in Peterborough. And I was a Montreal Expos fan after they came into the National League. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could take Bibles down to Montreal and present them? I remember that Sunday morning in May of 1976, I packed that box of books into my car here in Peterborough and headed to Montreal. Got up real early in the morning. I was driving on the 401 east of Montreal, thinking, I hope my motives are right, because I've never met a big league ball player before. Never had been to a big league game until the early 70s in Montreal. And here I am in a clubhouse with all these players gathered, and I get to meet them all as I give them a Bible. It was just, I look back and I think that really happened, even all these years later. And it was just the Lord opening a door for me. That was just the beginning of what would end up being 30 years of ministry to professional ball players. Following the 2005 season, which is my last year as chapel leader or chaplain to the Jays, Baseball Chapel, the organization that I was working under, they had a policy change regarding athletes giving money to their chaplains, and the policy change affected me because I just couldn't provide for my family under these new rules. And so I had to walk away at the end of the 2005 season after 29 years of ministering to the team, and it broke my heart, and all of a sudden I was a nobody. Before, I was the chaplain of the Blue Jays, and I was invited to speak all over the place, and suddenly all of those speaking opportunities dried up, and I was just the former chaplain of the Blue Jays. And it was difficult, but I realized that my identity was wrapped up in what I did, not who I was. So walking away from the Jays, which was a very difficult walk to make, and then family business struggling, and all of a sudden dividend income was gone, and a business that was well respected in Peterborough here and around the world, because we had customers in Europe and in the US. So it was kind of a double whammy, and I'm thinking, how are we going to survive? That began our first downsizing. We had to sell our house, move to a smaller home, and depression began to set in, and it's something that I had struggled with, kind of not to a great extent for most of my adult life, but it was there, and it would rear its ugly head from time to time, and I would deal with it just with God's grace and with His help. So it was a real struggle, losing home and office, but my identity most of all. I had to struggle to find out who I really was, and that was a very difficult time for me. Around 2009, the depression really hit me hard. I began seeing a psychiatrist to try to help with my depression, and all that did was make it worse, because it became just checking different medications and to see if they would help. All they did was make it worse, and psychiatrist would put me on something else. And finally, in 2010, I went down to Dallas, Texas, to see maybe the most renowned Christian psychiatrist who had written many books and who had helped so many people, Dr. Frank Minirth. I spent a week with him, and he was just trying to help me to get back on my feet and get me through this depression. And he did an amazing job, and he valued me as a person, not as a chaplain, but as a person. And it was good to just spend that time there. And then I went from there over to Arkansas to a ranch where they tried to help me. 5 or 6 weeks I was there. Those were very difficult years for me and my family. My wife Carol was so supportive. She had been all through my ministry, was behind me and just believed in what I was doing. It was actually Carol who arranged with Dr. Minnerth for me to go down to Texas, because she saw that I was a different person. I wasn't myself anymore. I came back and things slowly changed. I was able to get back on my feet, but during that time, when 2010, when I went down to Texas, that's when I had to give up the Pete's chaplaincy as well. Walking away from the chaplaincy with the Jays, with the Pete's, the depression, coming through all of that, those year and a half or so when depression really hit hard, there were times when I thought, is it really worth living? And yet the Word of God, the Bible, the verses I had learned as a kid would be right there. The Lord would minister to me through those. He would minister to me through music. I love playing the piano. I would sit down at the keyboard and play a song. Some of the songs that he gave me, some of the best songs he gave me, were written during those times of depression. And I've been able to minister to people here at Friends Peterborough who have gone through those struggles as well. A lot of our clients struggle with mental health issues, and there's a stigma attached to that. And I'm not afraid to say that depression, part of that was, those were mental health issues that I was battling. And I'm not afraid to say that I was struggling with that. I mean, I've had physical problems. I've had both knees replaced. I have to have my hip replaced. Those are things that you can talk about, and there's no stigma. But mental health issues, people don't talk about it. And I am determined that stigma should be removed, and I'll do anything I can to remove it. Anybody watching this video, if you're struggling with mental health issues, with depression, first and foremost, I would tell you, and I would urge you and suggest that you find somebody to talk to. And but most important, the Lord is the one who can give you victory over those struggles and help you in that dark valley, help you to get back on a path to healing. So I would just urge you to find help with a local agency that can help you with those struggles. But most of all, the Good Shepherd, He's the one that helped me. The Lord is my shepherd, and He guided me on the right path and brought me to a better place. And I would encourage you to seek out somebody who can help you in your struggle.